you need a visionary, big ideas, big vision, big relationships, and you need an integrator, detail-oriented, process-oriented, operations-oriented, analysis-oriented. So between the two, if you combine these two, you have a superpower. And so if you guys can find your complement, maybe that's going to be the jumpstart you'll need to take your company and your business to the next level.
Tim is one of the most authentic and genuine people I've ever met.
I sincerely believe he's coming from a position of giving, and that means a lot.
You're going to make huge progress.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Capital Raising Show. I'm your host, Tim Mai, and today I have an amazing guest speaker on the line with us. I'm super excited to interview him because what he doesn't know is I love all of his marketing. And so I've been funnel hacking and studying all of his marketing. So I'm super excited to interview him about all of that stuff today. So our speaker today is Vikram Raya, and he is a trained cardiologist and a functional medicine physician. He is an international speaker, high performance coach, an avid real estate investor. He has been active in the multifamily real estate space since 2015 and founding partner and CEO of Viking Capital Investments. As a real estate private equity firm, Viking Capital is approaching 4,900 units of multifamily, over $720 million of assets acquired. Vikram has raised over $180 million in private equity from high net worth individuals, doctors, and other professionals around the country who want to achieve true wealth and diversify their income. And he has a long list of other credentials, one of which is that he made it to the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies in the US. So with that, let's give Vikram a big welcome, y'all. Woohoo!
Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate that kind introduction. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I was not too far away from in your shoes, a couple of years ago. So things can really happen as long as you stay focused, find the right teams, figure out the asset class that makes sense, and then just double down,
Right.
And then and then be collaborative versus competitive, right? Each one teach one.
Exactly. Yes, I love that. So let's go right into that. If you can share with us a little bit about how or why you got into this real estate space, coming from being a physician.
Yeah, and then recent numbers. A lot of people are shrinking away during this environment, Tim, and we've doubled down. So now we've raised 250 million total.
Wow.
And we've crossed the 5,000 unit barrier, which was like a sort of a mental hurdle for ours. And I think next year we'll hit the billion mark in terms of total assets acquired. But if it was just me, I don't think I'd be anywhere close to this. First, I found partners that made sense. Second, I created a team. Third, I created systems and operations. Fourth, I got coached by anyone and everyone I could find so I could get to, be here. And then going to courses, conferences, reading a ton of books, right? It's sort of cliche, but that's the route that got me here. And
right.
You're wondering, how did it all start? Well, you start with frustration. You got to get frustrated with your current situation. Lean into your frustration, double down on it, and know that if you want a different outcome, a different path, a different destiny, then you got to envision it, imagine it, see if it's actually possible, and then try to start creating it, and it's almost like you have to have some self-delusion. A lot of people say, hey, I have imposter syndrome, and I tell people that if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're not thinking big enough.
That's good. So what was your frustration? Like what was your pain point that got you into this business?
Yeah. I worked, to become a physician in this country, you have to be like, only 5% of people get into medical school, 95% rejection rate. You have to go to 26 years of total schooling to become a physician. And then, you get there and you're like, you think the birds are going to start singing. You think like the clouds part, maybe some sunshine goes on your forehead, but instead it's a tough road, and you just realize that, okay, there's just another grind. And I really enjoyed the patient interaction part. I loved helping patients, but the all the bureaucracy, the red tape, the hustling you have to do, the amount of hours you put in, the lack of seeing, spending time with your kids, that got to me. And so I was like, all right, is there a better way? And so I never really meant to go into real estate full time. It was just, I started doing things, as a side thing. And first I tried options trading, Tim, and I got my butt kicked. I was like, this is too complex. I can't figure this out. And so then I was like, all right, what else can I do? And then, I'm like, man, I know people who are not that smart that are doing real estate. So I definitely can maybe I can figure that one out. And so before there were people like Hero Capital Raisers, and before there were meetups, and then before there were, online courses and conferences and all that, there was something called RIAs. Those are old school things called Real Estate Investment Associations. And it's essentially like these fringe kind of people who wanted something more. They wanted to go and meet up and talk about real estate. And so what I would tell my wife is I had to go see more patients, but I would secretly sneak out of my job after I finished work. And on my way home, I'd stop by and go play cash flow board games and just start learning real estate. And man, I tried wholesaling, horrible, too hard. And then I tried all these strategies. And then finally I decided, you know what? I can't even afford. I was in Northern Virginia and DC at the time. I'm like, I can't even afford to buy here. It's too expensive. So then I'm from Atlanta originally, and my mom and dad lived down there, and I knew that market pretty well. So I was like, let's go start maybe doing some fix and flips down there. And so that's how I got my real estate career started.
I see. So that was the 2015, or when did you get into the multifamily side?
2012, I started
cardiology,
my cardiology career 2011. And within 12 months of that career, I knew that if this is all where my whole income is, it's pretty unsafe. It's not reliable. I don't want to be a one income kind of person. It doesn't make sense to me. And so I immediately started learning something else. So 2012.
Okay, gotcha. And then what year did you get over to the syndication side?
So after doing, how most people get started, fix and flips. My first house, by the way, was a $28,000 house in like rural Atlanta. And we eventually sold it for like 56,000. And I was like, I felt so happy. I felt so amazed. My wife essentially told me we're not allowed to use my personal credit cards. We can't use my personal name because she thought the whole thing was very risky. And so I had to use credit cards, hard money loans. There's a company called BHG. They keep sending me emails like to borrow money from them. So one day I did. I Googled accredited investors on the internet. And then there's this website. I had to give all my information. And then I had to do a Western Union wire transfer to this group of accredited investors. And then they would wire me funds for my deal. Ended up becoming a scam. So, I mean, like, I've done some stupid things to get to where I am. But at some point, after owning a couple of homes, and then I would do the BRRRR method, right? Refinance everything else out. And I would keep buying more deals. I was like, all right, this is great. But I mean, on paper, I have 30 homes, 30 properties, but I have very little equity. It's not much cash flow. And if I just did more moonlighting shifts as a cardiologist, I'd probably make more money. I'm like, I need something bigger. And so I think some of the people here are from that organization I was part of called RE Mentor. So there's a dude called Dave Lindahl, and he was like from Boston talking about something called multifamily and syndications. The whole thing seemed illegal to me personally, but I went to attend a lecture at my local RIA in DC, and it clicked, but I still didn't take action. It was not for another 12 months till I was like, I sort of convinced myself, maybe this is possible. And then, I found a partner because I realized multifamily is a team sport. And it's very hard to do it on your own if you really want to become an owner operator. And so then while we're trying to do our own deals, it was very difficult to find anything. And so I ended up partnering and helping raise capital for other people. And I did that a couple of times. And then at some point we're like, you know what they're doing is not that special. Like they're not that cool. I can figure this out. And so me and my buddy just reverse engineered the whole thing. Like you're reverse engineering my funnels. And then we just said, hey, let's go do this. And so that's how we ended up getting going after our first deal, which, if you allow me, it's a very interesting story I can share.
Yeah, let's definitely go into that first deal. Let's go right into it.
it took me 2 years to create broker relationships. So
Mm,
this is me like going out there, talking to people, like asking what's going on. No one would take us seriously. We had no credibility in the space, no track record, and so I've after underwriting like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 deals, finally a deal made sense and we tried to get it under contract. The problem was the broker had another group that they really liked and they ended up
mm,
awarding the deal to them. So it was a 118 unit in South Atlanta, sort of the semi ghetto area, C plus property. And we were disappointed because we really thought this is the deal for us. And so then we just, dust ourselves off and started looking again. About a week later, we get a phone call from the broker and he's like, dude, interesting news. Do you still want the deal? I'm like, yeah. What's up? What did they want it? And he's like, well, it was a situation that happened. We're like, do you want the deal? I'm like, yeah, but what's the situation? And he goes, yeah, there's a murder on the property. So the New
what?
York group backed off. We're like, okay. And I didn't at that point, me and my partner were like looking at her like, what the hell are we getting into? We're like, no, we're living a reasonable life. We have decent jobs. If we just play this out for another 30, 40 years, we can maybe retire one day. Are you sure? Do we know what we're doing? Are we going to get arrested? What's going on here? So we did our due diligence. We checked it out. It was a one-off thing, most likely. Crime reports, talking to the property management company, all of that. And so we were at a crossroads. Do we do this thing and potentially regret it, or do we walk away and see what happens? So we just decided to roll up the dice and just go for it. And so we bought the deal.
Wow. You guys are brave. Okay.
And we hired security. We just, we crossed our fingers. We thought this was just a one-off thing, and then ended up being one of the most amazing deals. And then the property next door was vacant. It was 62 units, and it used to be all condos that they've owned by multiple owners. And we're like, dude, this is bringing down our property. And so we ended up, again, no one would give us a loan because it was zero occupancy. It was all vacant.
Mm,
And so literally we had to piecemeal the whole 62 units together by buying it from all these individual condo owners. Then we had to convert it from a condo back into apartments.
oh, wow.
And then we ended up then we had to fill it up. And then we had to combine that with our 118 units we had when we sold it. And so the whole thing in all, we put in 8 million in terms of, like debt, loan, debt, equity, everything.
Mhm.
And we sold it for 13 million in 24
Wow.
months.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so
Wow.
our investors and I got a $5 million paycheck. And that gave me the confidence, Tim, to say, you know what, this multifamily thing ain't too bad. And we ended up, it allowed me to retire from cardiology, traditional cardiology. I ended up doing other things in medicine, but at least it gave me
Gotcha.
the courage to say, you know what, I think my side hustle just became my main hustle.
That's an amazing story. And it being your first deal to take on something that has a murder at the property and take on something that's 100% vacant. It took some amazing team building to make that happen. So what would share with us some I mean, obviously you and your partners felt confident enough to go in, but was there a key factor that had you feel like, hey, we can do this, even though it has all of these issues, we can pull the resources, the expertise together to make this work?
I think one, we knew, since I'm from Atlanta, that gave me some level of comfort, even though I live in Northern Virginia, DC. That's where our company's headquartered. And so that's number one. Number two, after looking at so many deals, and the numbers on this one were like really amazing.
Mm,
I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get this opportunity again. So I was like,
gotcha.
if we mess up, we mess up. Worst case scenario, I'll go back to being a doctor. I guess not the worst case in the world,
Right.
And then number three was we listened to the brokers who were trying to advocate overall that this was still a good deal. We listened to our property management company. We did our own due diligence. We talked to the police department. We did all of this stuff. And then at some point, you're not going to have complete information. And so many of you on this call are similar to me in that you have opportunities in front of you. The ones that are successful on the call are the ones that at some point you decide to ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, aim. Let me aim one more time. Let me check, and then fire. Right? That's the only difference. It's not capability, it's not courage, it's not any of this. It's the people who haven't done anything that they want to do yet on the call. It's because of their analysis paralysis. It's because of their over analytical minds. And so if you have one of those minds, all is not lost. You want to partner with someone who's more, and if you haven't done this, there's something called the DISC score, DISC score. This is important for everyone who wants to capital raise. The ideal phenotype or the ideal thing on a DISC score is you want to have a high I. High I means you're very outgoing, interactive. That's very helpful in capital raising. And then if you have a very high SC, you're very analytical. And so you may want to partner with someone who has a more of a D, which is the person who's more more decisive, more driving, you know? And so between me and my partner, we had a very complementary skill set. And so there's a book called Rocket Fuel by a person named Gino Wickman. And he wrote that because he said there's two types of people you need in any business to be successful. You need a visionary, big ideas, big vision, big relationships, and you need an integrator, detail-oriented, process-oriented, operations-oriented, analysis-oriented. So between the two, if you combine these two, you have a superpower. And so if you guys can find your complement, maybe that's going to be the jumpstart you'll need to take your company and your business to the next level.
I love that. Such a great advice. Thank you. So let's talk about the capital raising on that deal. What was it challenging? Was it, what are some of the big hurdles you had to go through in capital raising on that first deal? I mean, it wasn't your first raise, right? Because you have raised for other
I did
people.
3 raises before, and
Okay.
I'll quickly talk about those first because some of you may have never raised, other people have already raised, you know, a considerable amount. But let me go back to the beginning. I didn't know that I had a capability to raise. I hated asking for money. That's when the person I was working with said, he slapped me upside, verbally slapped me upside the head and said, "You're not asking anyone for money." Right? It is providing opportunities. Number 2, if you don't have, there's a lot of sales techniques, there's a lot of strategies, but in the end, there's only one thing that really helps someone invest in your deal. And does anyone on the call know what it is? Let's you can monitor the chat, Tim, and tell me if anyone has figured it out.
Confidence in the deal.
Give me one word.
Confidence.
Confidence, David. That's a good one. But I want something even more powerful. Oh, yes. Wakefield Lee has it. That's the word, guys. Confidence, grace, trust is great, but I want something more visceral. And what I mean is conviction. So Wakefield, good job. I like that word.
Good job.
Conviction, guys. Conviction is almost like, it's just like you are a missionary, right? The goal is stop being mercenaries. Many of you are mercenaries. What that means is it's a marriage convenience, meaning, oh, the numbers make sense. Yeah, I believe in the deal. Yeah, okay, I'll try to pitch it. Conviction is, if you don't invest in this deal, you're gonna miss out on the deal. This is for real. It's hard to find these deals. Trust me, you want to get into this deal. Like, that is conviction. Like my mom's in this deal, my grandmother's in this deal. You better get in this deal, otherwise you're gonna miss out. In fact, I have a waiting list for this deal. Right? So that's the kind of thing. So anyway, I didn't have that at the beginning, but I learned to get it. And the more I got learning, awareness, education, knowledge, immersion into this whole space, it helped me become more compelling when I was trying to share opportunities with folks. At the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. They asked me to raise, I think, $750,000. I told them I can raise $250,000 at most. Right. And then what I ended up happening was I started talking to people. People were expressing interest. I was sharing the ideas. They're like, okay, tell me more. And when I didn't know anything, I would go back to the original guy who's running the deal and ask him, and he would tell me what he thought. And then I would then interpret that to them. And so most of you, I don't care what profession you are, you probably know at least 5 to 7 people, you know, who make 6 figures, you know, somewhere in your history or life. Right. And so, you know, what's one of the things I'm surrounded by? I'm surrounded by a lot of people who don't know what to do with their money because they think they're smart, but they are not normally smart, right? I'm referring to physicians here. So I tapped into my warm network, right? But doesn't matter if you're a physician or not, you're always surrounded by people who have more money than brain. So you want to help these people out.
Very
So
good.
I ended up raising 750,000 with me and my partner did on the first deal. And then we're like, oh my God, we
That's awesome.
blew our own expectations from 250 to 750. Then that same group were like, hey, I got another deal. You ready? Hey, like, no, we're done for the year. We raised 750. Are you crazy? How do you expect us to raise again? They're like, yeah, but it's a different deal. I'm like, okay. So then we raised for that one. And then we ended up raising like 1.5. We're like, oh my God, this is not that challenging. And how did I do it? I would just take their packet, put my brand on it. I would email it to my friends. I would say, hey, here's my, and then on my way home from work, I would talk to a few investors. On the way to work, I would talk to investors. In between patients, I would try to go back to talk to the sponsor. I mean, I was hustling, right? It's like, that's all you have to do, right? And then I had a young baby at home. My wife was working. So it was like, it's not like I had much time. So then I started getting up earlier, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., try to fit this in. And then, always talking to investors on my free times. And then we raised, I think, and then the third deal, they asked us to do it again. I'm like, dude, I can't raise anymore. I'm done. My investors are tapped out. And then we ended up raising 2.3 million. So that was like, all right. Now we're like, all right, we don't necessarily need these guys. I think we can do it on our own. And that's when we ended up getting our
Gotcha. All right. So real quick before we talk about the raises you have to do for that first deal. So with these 3 raises, so they were all from your warm network. So most of them were physicians, other physicians. Is that correct?
Physicians or other, entrepreneurs or, successful people that are in my network. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what was
you don't want to
like?
Sorry, Tim, I gotta say something. You don't raise from broke people.
Gotcha. Good advice. Yes.
Just trying to see if everyone's awake.
Yes, I mean we love them for sure. We love them, but we are looking for people with investable assets, right? So how did you approach so your very first outreach to your warm network? Was it a text? Was it a call? Was it an email? How did you approach them?
No. It was I would do like an old school email, not like one of those mass emails. It was like a personal email to that person. I would cut and paste the same thing, but with that little top heading with a personalized intro, and at the end, I would be a little bit more personal. So the deal would be in the middle. The front part of the deal would be like, "Hey, how are you doing? What's going on? How's so and so, or your wife, or your kids, or whatever? Hey, by the way, I just came across this opportunity. Just wanted to put it on your radar." Boom, put the deal information in a nice, digestible way. And then at the end with links, hyperlinks to whatever the deal packets were.
Right.
And then at the end, it was hey, awesome, we should hang out soon, or let's go grab dinner, or let's grab a beer, or, that kind of thing. And then conclusion.
Gotcha. Okay. And so by that point, I guess they would already know that you're in real estate because a few years before that, you got into the fix and flip war. Is that correct?
Yeah, I when I was in the fix and flip world, I kept it a secret because I thought people would judge me. People thought it was weird that I was doing this. Like people thought, oh, is he not a good doctor? Or what's going on? And I felt embarrassed to be a physician doing real estate. And then something clicked. I'm like, hey, instead of being embarrassed, could it be my superpower?
That's good. Good question to ask yourself. So yeah, so you send this, send that warm email. Basically make the personal connection, ask them about them, the family. And I like how you end with, hey, let's meet up, grab food or drinks or something. That's good. So fast forward a little bit to your big first deal. You said the total cap raise on that one was 8 million, or is that including the whole capital
it was
stack?
1.5 million for the 118 units. It was a whole, that purchase price was like, I think 5 million. And then I had to raise another 3 million for the unoccupied units that I had to, and then again, zero ability to take a loan on it because it was completely vacant, which is not a good investor beginner rookie move. But it was actually bringing the value of our property down. So we had to buy the one next door. And
Mhm.
so I borrowed money from people, like essentially hard money loans, where friends and family, I would say, hey, I'll give you 10%, 12%, that I'd pay at the end of the year. Credit cards. I tapped out my savings. My partner tapped out his savings, and we went for it.
Gotcha. Like, was it just the two of you did the raise? Did you brought on any other other
No, it was
people
too
to help
risky.
raise?
When you have a
Mm.
62 unit that's completely vacant,
Mhm.
no one's going to want to be part of that. So this is
Wow.
not a
Okay.
normal thing. I don't recommend doing this, but we sort of had to, and I would say, it did work out for us, but it's not a beginner move.
Mm. Gotcha. Okay. I guess was it pretty challenging for that raise then, since it is more risky and you're having to raise the entire
Again, it
equity
wasn't a
without loan?
raise. It wasn't a raise, right? Because no one got equity,
Oh, so hold
right? This is
on. Maybe I
all.
missed some.
So we borrowed all the money we needed
Got
to
it.
take the deal down,
So
but
like
there's
private
no
money.
equity given. It was all hard money loans, credit cards, and our own
I
savings.
see.
Because
Okay, that's the
I
part
would,
I
I don't
missed.
even feel putting any investors in the deal, right? There's no cash flow in the deal.
Okay.
But
Well, I
but
mean, yeah.
within 12 months, we're able to get it, reparcelize it, put all the tenants in there, and we bought it for average 25K a door, so vacant.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we knew hypothetically it's going to turn out well, but still, it's still risky.
Right. That's good.
And
Okay.
then right. So then we got it all fully tenanted, and then it was rocking and rolling. We ended up refinancing it, paying off our investors, or I'm not investors, but our debt, whatever. And then when we told the brokers, sell it as one big complex, and that's when we really got the pop in our valuation.
Gotcha. Yeah. It kind of remind me of back in 2008, 2009, when we had the market crash. A couple of the funds I know were buying multifamily back then. And yeah, they just used hard money to take down the entire deal, because it was pretty challenging to raise for capital back then too. So that's pretty cool that you figured that out. So let's switch gear a little bit. Let's talk about your marketing. Do you do your own marketing, or like I feel like you must have a really good marketer behind your team. I love the marketing you guys put out. So how much of it do you do? How much of it, is the marketing team that you hire do?
So Tim, I never had a director of marketing or anything like that until about 12 or 18 months ago.
Okay.
So it was all me at the beginning, and it was a labor of love, but it was also the bane of my existence. So if I could do it over again, the move would be to hire, first of all, get an agency sooner rather than later, and then at some point when you grow big enough, you need to bring in-house marketing in-house, and that's definitely a move. The other big move is that you're not mentioning, but I'd recommend you talk about it to your group, is going from 5063B to 5063C. And
The
saying
conversion.
screw the non-accredited investors, just go fully accredited, but now you're able to market fully.
I
Right.
see.
And
Okay.
so
So
I don't know how many owners and operators there are, probably more co-GPs here, but if you go partner with someone who's doing 5063C, because then you can market from the rooftops, you can blast the messaging everywhere, and that is how you're going to get a lot more people than the old school, hey, friends and family route. Now, that being said, we delayed that long enough because we did have a really depth of friends and family that really made sense for us.
I see. Okay. Now, I see some people are doing B2C conversion as well. Are you doing any of that at all, where you start out the race as a B and then convert it to a C?
Yeah,
No,
I
just
don't,
straight
there's
C.
no. I mean, let me reframe the question. So we did Bs for like, I think first 3 years, maybe 4 years, and then at some point when we're like, all right, we need to keep raising more capital, we're sort of handicapped. And to be honest with you, even when we were doing Bs, we never really took non-accredited people because we just think it was unsafe, So I'm like, if we're not getting the advantages of B, then why are we even doing B?
I see.
Though there is like a mandatory verification on C's, it's a small price to pay.
Right.
And
What?
so there's a lot of old school syndicators out there that were like, they used to teach all these different things. Many of the old school teachings are not valid anymore. So whenever you got trained in multifamily, wherever you went, if they're not actively buying, they're behind the times, and I wouldn't follow them anymore.
I see. Okay. What I meant to ask, and it doesn't sound like you guys are doing this at all, but I do see some syndicators now where on that deal, on that specific deal, they'll start the raise as a 506B, and then 30 days later, once they exhaust their personal contact, then they convert that into a 506C, and then they go out and advertise for that deal. But it
So,
doesn't
Tim,
sound like you do that.
Yeah, I want to share that with a lot of the people here. Guys, don't make it so complex. Complexity is enemy of execution. So keep it simple. Don't go fancy. Don't get cute. Like choose a B or choose a C. There's all these high conversions. It's really the lawyers making a lot of money on this. You don't need to make it that complex. If you think you can go B and raise the whole amount, great, do B. If you have any questions or concerns, go C. Right? It's and if you figured out some marketing, eventually it becomes more of a marketing game, right? At some point, we're all
Right.
going to exhaust our contacts. I don't care who you are. You can be like Bill Gates. At some point, even Bill Gates can run out of money, right? So that's the advantage of C. So if you can figure out a compelling marketing strategy, then essentially this is a marketing game and not a real estate game any longer. The more marketing dollars you dial up, the more investors come in the funnel. And if you can convert them at a reasonable rate, then it's infinite. What happens is there's a strategy I like to call, I haven't achieved it yet, but this is the holy grail for all of us. UDUC, all unlimited deals, unlimited capital, right? If we can get there, you can write your own ticket essentially.
Right. That would be good. I think that's what we all want. So I see that you do a lot of Facebook ads. You have a really solid funnels. I see you have a funnel that goes to the sort of the education nurturing, and then you have a funnel that goes straight into your deals. I see you do live events. I see you do podcasts. What would you say, like, from all the different marketing that you do, what would you say be the top 3 that you like the most? Maybe because you bring in the most qualified investors.
So guys, you guys know the old school economist Alfredo's the pasta dude. Vilfredo Pareto, right? He is our good old 80-20 guy, right? Pareto's principle. So 20% of the things you do get you 80% of the results. So a lot of you, if you haven't gained traction yet, the problem is you're doing too much and not looking at the feedback and then spreading yourselves too thin. So probably one of the things you're doing is probably getting you most of your results. And so follow the advice of more, better than new. So always do more of something completely before you try to optimize it and before you try to add new things to it. Right. And then once you max out that one channel or one thing, then you become better at it. And then you can try different channels. So my first channel that worked was I knew people who had no clue how to invest, but they had money. So I maximized that. Whatever that is for you, figure that out and then go down that road. You have a rich uncle, keep pinging him until he invests. You have a business that's spitting off a lot of cash, use that to invest in your deals. You're around a country club, fine, use that. Whatever it is, or you around like a network of folks from another industry who are looking to break into real estate, there you go. Doesn't matter. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you need to optimize that strategy. And then after that, then you make it look better. Like, my first one was a ghetto email. My first investment deck was pretty ghetto, right? And then round 2, it looked a little better. Round 3, a little bit better. Right now, man, I'm saying this as a humble brag. I want to lick the screen when I see my investment deck. It's so delicious. right? It looks gorgeous, but it's because my first 5 were pretty ghetto, and I had to keep improving every step of the way, right? And I look at other syndicators, investors, even professional institutions. I'm like, their decks suck. They're ugly. And so, like, I take pride in this. It's like it's something like I'm aesthetically inclined. My partner doesn't care less. He's like, dude, all 5 of those decks look the same to me. I'm like, okay, fine. So again, if you're aesthetically inclined, go into that and go delve into it. And then just, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so raise your standards, right? Play a better game compared to everyone else around you. It will be seen by your investors or your prospects or whoever else.
Very cool. I like that a lot. You expanded from your network. So what's a channel source that's working really well for you right now? It's the ads bringing you the most amount of investors, or is it, other channels?
Tim, can I drop some truth bombs on your people today?
Yes.
Here we go, guys. If you're in a car, you guys are gonna miss out. All of you guys sitting next to your computers or your phones, good job. You guys are gonna get the juice here. So number 1, there's a guy I want you all follow. Many of you, maybe some of you are following him. So probably half of you are not. So here it is. Alex Hormozy. He's on YouTube. He has a podcast. And most importantly, there's 2 books that you guys need to reread if you've already read it, because I know a lot of you read a lot of books, but it doesn't process. So go back and read it. $100 million Offers is his first book. The second book is $100 million Leads. The second book is much more relevant to you guys as capital raisers.
Yep.
He really talks about how to get unlimited leads. So remember the UDUC, it's really a thing. You can actually get unlimited capital by getting unlimited leads. So he really lays out a nice framework. Now let's go back to my situation. So you're asking, how did I structure things? So when you don't have any money, guess what? You can't do paid ads. So get that off the table. When you have money, guess what? You get to do paid ads. So we didn't do paid ads until we did like 3 or 4 deals, maybe 5 deals under our belt. So then, acquisition fees, profits, some sales, some cash flow. Yes, now I can afford to do paid ads. Until then, it's old school. It's value, it's education, it's going to conferences, it's shaking hands, it's kissing babies, maybe slapping some babies, I don't know. And it's it's your warm network, it's growing your warm network. And then at some point we had to get other people to help us raise capital, right? So as we initially started as co-GPs, guess what? We started bringing other co-GPs on, right? And so once you're more generous, then you gotta see. I don't care about having, a pie all to myself. I just want a bigger pie. I don't mind sharing that pie with folks. So the more generous you are, the more capital you can raise, guys.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. You focus a lot on multifamily. Are you still, in terms of your projection for the next few years, are you still exclusively just focusing on multifamily?
You're being kind, Tim. I was really stupid at the beginning, and I really started having, it's like, you're really faithful to your spouse and you're really looking at just them, but then like all these pretty things start flying and you're like, oh, what's that? But you got to really be focused. And then, like, similar to in the Matrix, in the movie, like, what's the name? Neo, and then his other buddy, I forgot, Morpheus. Yeah. He's Morpheus, like, watch out for the lady in the red, out for the lady in the red dress. Right. And so naturally, we as real estate investors have problems staying focused. We see what our friends are doing. We see what our families are doing. We see what the latest webinar we watched showed, and we get distracted. So I'll give you examples of my distractions, Tim, if you allow me to.
Yes.
I am a proud owner of a hemp farm in Colorado that produces 0 income, and probably I'm going to lose some money on it. I've analyzed several student housing deals, which I never put offer into because it never made sense to me. I'm recently got tempted by car washes, which I said no to. I'm proud of myself. What else? Self-storage we've looked at. trailer home parks. I think when I bought a course that's still collecting dust on my bookshelf. But what I've learned as I've matured in the industry is singular focus, monomaniacal focus on one thing, rinse and repeat, make it freaking boring. And that's how I'm going to get to $1 billion of assets and 2 billion and beyond.
Gotcha.
So I made a rule to myself. I'm like, all right, Viking Capital will not get distracted until we get 10,000 doors, $1 billion under assets, and then if I do want to do another asset class, not a problem. I'll create a separate team with a little bit of overlap, but another team that has the expertise that I'll bring in, and boom, I'm going to go after it. So, you read my little fancy little bio that my team put together for me, right? So I started as a cardiologist, learned the skill sets there. Then I did functional medicine, learned how to reverse disease in folks. Then I had to learn how to market because it was all cash based. Then I learned, single family homes. Then I learned multifamily and syndications, right? And each time I'm building different teams for all these different things. And now I have a whole coaching company. I'm a high performance coach. We have 200 coaching clients all over the country. So then I built a team for that. So now, there's other things that I'm starting to explore, right? So I make sure that I hit what I call escape velocity for any company I create. There's enough team, there's enough income, there's a repeatable process. And eventually I'm becoming a true owner and not an operator. And then you can go after something else.
I see.
In the meantime, don't get distracted by all the ladies in the red dress or the men in the red dress. If you guys are into that, whatever makes sense. But the key is focus monomaniacally until you get one offer, $1 million, in either revenue or assets created or whatever, and whatever your threshold is, but just get focused, stay focused.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, if you get distracted, you also distract your investors. They're like, hey, I thought you were into mobile home parks. Well, yeah, that was last week. Now I'm into, green energy, solar roofs on chimneys or something. And they're like, oh, okay.
Right. So
I'm doing structured notes and tax investing or whatever.
Right. So on that sort of thinking, what would you say, because the other thought process or the other argument is that in the next 18 months, especially, multifamily assets are probably going to be the one that gets hit the hardest. And so what are you doing to still stay with multifamily, but yet still, maximizing your returns, your investors' returns with multifamily?
So let's talk about what you just said, Tim. Where's the data?
Well, I'm actually going to be interviewing him here in a couple of weeks. Come from TREP. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he's saying that there's real data that is showing that multifamily it's going to be the among the assets that will be most affected. He's saying all commercial assets, but especially multifamily.
Okay, so that's where, again, I respect whoever that person is, but again, you need to have multiple streams of information. And let's just say he's true, right? Whatever he's saying is true. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why it's not, but let's assume what he's saying is true. So you're saying multifamily is about to get hit. So what you're telling me is multifamily is going to go on discount. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes. But he's saying that, but here, hold on. He's saying, but it won't hit bottom until 18. He's estimating 18 months from now. So if we get into it now, even though it is at a discount, it's not at a low enough discount that we can get.
No offense, Tim, but the typical hold period for multifamily is how long?
5 years, 3 to 5 years. I guess in this market, probably 5 to 7 years, but yes.
Okay, let's just say 5 years. Would that be fair?
Yes.
So do you agree you can't time the bottom? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
So we got our boy Trep saying, okay, things are going to fall out and we're not going to hit the bottom until 18 months. So since we can't time the bottom, and since people speak in generalities, but people buy in specifics, you agree?
Right. Yes, I agree.
So if the specific deal makes sense and it cash flows and you have a fixed debt on it, right? and you're conservative with your rent projections, and if it still makes sense and you buy it, there may be a dip. You agree?
Yes, that's correct. Uh-huh.
But by year 5, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, by then it'll bounce back already. Yes.
Right. So that's how I start. When people do fear mongering in general, this is how I really try to break it down and understand. Number 2, I brought on the top 3 economists in the country. One was so CBRE is the largest real estate company in the world. Their top capital markets analyst guy is Spencer Levy. He has a really good podcast called The Weekly Take. Highly recommend it. Number 2, I had the top guy from Cushman, and number 3, I had the top guy from Marcus Millichamp. Each with varying data, different things, and they have to all study the economy. So we've never stopped buying, no matter what the market cycle is. Our strategies change during the market cycles depending on what's available, right? So there's you cannot time any markets. So if there's a deal to be, the way we buy now is a lot different than where we bought like 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, all that. So I would say always be looking for opportunities, buy based on data and based on your knowledge of that submarket and that specific deal. And in markets like this, there's less buyers, so things are on discount. In fact, I just got a deal under contract in Atlanta where we were not the highest bidder. We were one of the lowest bidders, but they didn't trust other groups to transact. They didn't think they could even pull it off. And so they came back to us after we walked away from the table and said, hey, okay, we'll go and sell it to you. So it was a $32 million deal. We're buying for $28 million.
Wow.
So I don't care if the market dips a little bit. I got a discount.
That makes sense. Yeah, I like that. Are you still focusing on any like major value adds anymore, or do you do nicer? Like you mentioned, your portfolio, you can lick your screen. So are you primarily focused on A's and B's these days, or where are you at?
So when I was saying lick the screen, I was saying the investment deck that my team created was so.
Oh, gotcha.
But that being said, the answer is yes. Are you buying B's? I'm not buying C's. I'm definitely buying B's and A's, and I'll do that all day long.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
it's not that there's anything wrong with C's. It helped me get my career started. I'm realizing I don't necessarily need to deal with the management issues of that to get the kind of profits that C's do create. That's all.
Right. Okay. In terms of, one of the major challenge that a lot of syndicators facing right now are, deals that are not performing. They might have stopped distribution long ago, maybe even capital call. Do you have,
Yep.
Do you have any of your deals that you had to do a capital call?
No deals had to do a capital call. So the reason why that is happening to some folks is, again, you got to anticipate things. And at the beginning, you may not know enough to anticipate, but if you've been in the business long enough, you got to be well capitalized, right? That's very key. You have to have cushions. You have to have contingency plans. Number 2, if you're the only person in the country you have to hold distributions on, then that's shame on you. But if most of the country is doing it, it's probably a macroeconomic trend that's out of your hands. So it's not about if anyone's going to have a tough deal that they're going to have on their plate. There's not, all of us are going to at some point have a tough deal. And if you don't have a tough deal or a deal that goes sideways, guess what? You haven't been in the game long enough.
Right.
It's similarly like any surgeon you talk to. Have you had any complications? No, I've had 0 complications. He's either lying or he hasn't been surgeon long enough, right?
Right.
Similar.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The key is, how do you somehow navigate the uncertainty and get your investors return of principal, which is very important, and then more importantly, a return of investment, like get an ROI still.
Right.
And it's really good asset management right now. Like the best operators I know are still able to either continue distributions like we are on most of our properties, or if we're holding it as temporary hold, and then we're going to resume once things stabilize. But if you have like losing properties and capital calls, I really think that's inexcusable. And I think it's lack of foresight and maybe some asset management skills.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have, I know a guy here in Houston. He's been in this for 20 years. And for the very first time, one deal fell apart and it made huge news. And so it's, I don't know exactly, I don't know the details of what happened, but it was one of the bigger deals that went south. And it's unfortunate, but now yeah, it's all over the news. uh, so switch gear a little bit. What are some of your favorite tools that you use in the business that help you, track economics, or like you mentioned, you brought on experts, or either tools that you're using to know how to navigate through market changes, or just tools that you use a lot in your business that you like a lot?
So a lot of my friends have written syndication books. So like I think my friend Dan Hanford wrote a book on from passiveinvesting.com. My buddy Joe Fairless wrote a book, Apartment Syndication Guide. Obviously, one of my old school mentors, old school book. It's an oldie but still a goodie. Multifamily Millions. There's a friend of mine, Rob Beardsley, has a book on underwriting. And so all these things are just good, just foundational information, right? So you have that. Number two, conferences. So I would say the conference that I recommend, at least if you're really interested in real estate, you want to sort of meet, greet, talk, network, is the best ever conference, is a good one. And then if you're actually a player, if you're actually having at least 3, 4, 5 assets and you're willing to pay the $5K entrance fee, and you want to, smooth with the brokers and sellers and buyers, then there's something called NMHC. Okay, it's the big baller conference for actual institutional players and even syndicators as well. And then obviously most brokerage arms, and then here's the main brokerage arms if you want to capture this. It's Newmark, it's Cushman Wakefield, it's CBRE, Berkadia, Northmark with a Q at the end of it. Who else? JLL, Marcus Millichamp. I think those are the main ones that come to mind. I'm just trying to think of anyone else. So they all produce a ton of data, multifamily information, reports, quarterly reports, sub-market reports. So get on everyone's email list, capture all that, download all that. And then it's really just doing, if you're actually being owner operator, then you need to underwrite a ton and really get good at it. If you're that's not your skill set, consider hiring someone and training them after you know what you're doing. Gotcha. And then if you're being a co-GP, then start small. Hey, knock out the 500K raise. When you get good at it, then say, hey, I can take down $1 million. Then once you get $1 million, say, hey, I'm going to do 1.5, and then just work your way up. It's like flexing your muscles in the weight room, right? You learn how to become a really good capital raiser. That's it. It's a skill set. There are groups out there, like as a group, a buddy of mine, Hunter Thompson, has something called Raise Masters, teaches you how to become sort of a thought leader in a little niche space so you can, sort of optimize and, increase your capital raising. And I'm sure there's other small groups out there that teach on capital raising too. So, and then this network that Tim's putting together, right? Everyone's sharing best practices, best ideas, but really you need to get out there and do it. And if you're not getting traction within 90 days of doing something, you need to look at yourself in the mirror. It's probably not an external situation at that point. You may have an abundance block. You may have a scarcity mindset. And if that's the case, then I highly recommend you read a mentor of mine's book, T. Harv Eker, and he has something called The Secrets of a Millionaire's Mind. And then we need to go subconscious and look at your abundance blocks.
Right. I
don't deserve to raise capital. Oh, who would trust me? Yada, 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 right? All that BS we have in our heads. I call it head trash. And the solution is, it's time to empty the dumpster, my friends.
That's good. I love it. I love you going to the psychology part of it as well. So we are going to be wrapping up this segment of the call, and then we'll open up for the Q&A here. Vikram, for those listening, want to reach out to you, learn from you, become a client, attend your events, or invest with you, where would you like to send them?
Guys, go to my website, vikramraya.com. It's a good place. I have a YouTube channel that I would love for you guys to subscribe to. I produce a lot of good content there. And then my podcast is called the Limitless MD Podcast. And again, if you want to learn about Viking Capital and just anything we have to offer, or you want to emulate anything we're doing, vikingmultifamily.com.
All right, Vikram, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I so appreciate your time. You've been a wealth amount of wisdom and yeah, and just really wise advice and hands-on, experiences that you share with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Angel. That's cool.